Welcome back, Sip&Talkers. Grab your coffee or, maybe something a little stronger today.
Yeah, to be here.
Because the stuff we're looking at, it just suggests the future's coming way faster and maybe a little scarier than people think.
Well, doesn't it feel like the market is just having these crazy mood swings lately?
Totally.
One day, everyone is absolutely certain the sky is falling, and the next, we're like back to record highs.
The whiplash is intense. I mean, the volatility is so real, and it's unsettling because the swings just feel like they're getting wider and wider.
They are.
It makes having a clear logic, like an investment script, just absolutely critical right now.
It really does. If you're just reacting emotionally to whatever the headline is, I mean, the chaos will just drive you nuts.
Right.
We always encourage you to build, a logical framework. That's why we spend so much time digging into the structural shifts, not just the daily noise.
Exactly. And let's just say it again. We're researchers. We're enthusiasts. We are not your financial advisors.
Please don't sue us.
We're just here to unpack the data. And speaking of that, our inbox has been kind of flow with questions lately.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's asking us to revisit our 2026 outlook.
Yeah.
Specifically about this one term, rigid demand.
Ah, yes. The big question. What is rigid demand? And, where is this necessity actually rigid?
Right.
It's a term that often gets translated from Chinese gangxing's gu, and it really just means an unavoidable necessity. And for AI, it defines irreversibility.
Irreversibility, that's the core idea here.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years, people could treat AI as, a trend, a fun new toy, maybe a nice little productivity boost.
Right, something to play with.
But the research is now pointing to 2026 as the year the whole ecosystem just flips.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't incorporate AI into your workflow, you can't compete. Stops being optional, becomes a fundamental, absolute necessity.
And this is the part that I think a lot of people miss. We aren't just talking about, software engineers or data scientists.
Right.
We mean everyone. Marketing teams, legal departments, admin staff, teachers, doctors, creators. The estimate is pretty stark.
Yeah, what is it?
If you don't have an integrated AI workflow, your professional productivity will drop by 50%.
50, half.
Half, compared to your competitors who are using it right.
That's like choosing to run a race at half speed. But okay, this total reliance, this rigid demand, it creates a huge new problem, right? Increased social fragility. When everything is tied to this one thing, the three big dangers we face in 2026, they stop being theoretical risks and they become just unavoidable realities.
So the first one is this over-reliance on automation.
Yeah.
When errors happen, and they will happen, they just spread faster and wider and more devastatingly than any human can possibly fix.
Think about how fast fake news spreads on social media.
Exactly.
Now, just amplify that, but apply it to, global supply chains or financial markets.
And then second, you have the accelerated skill gap. The difference between users and non-users won't be like a small gap. It's existential.
Like two different species.
It really is. The research suggests people who master AI workflows and those who don't will just be operating in such fundamentally different realities.
And the third one?
Infrastructure centralization. The whole world is relying on just a few massive proprietary models and cloud infrastructures, the hyperscalers.
Right.
So any big accident or, a bug in one of those systems, it becomes a global synchronized event.
That's the analogy that just gives me chills. It's like having three companies control the entire world's power switch.
Yeah.
If one of them glitches, the entire global economy just goes dark.
And this is exactly why that warning from Tristan Harris is so important right now.
For anyone who doesn't know, he co-founded the Center for Humane Technology.
Yeah.
He's one of the first people to really call out the harms of social media.
And he is urging the public right now to use their voice, to protest, to demand that politicians make AI governance a core priority.
And the reason he gives for this urgency is it's deeply concerning. He says soon, when an irreversible disaster strikes, humans may not even have the option to shut down the entire internet.
Wow.
We're getting to a point where we can't just unplug to save ourselves.
That is a huge, huge shift in the whole safety paradigm. We're moving from, human in the loop to human as spectator.
So today's deep dive isn't about if we should use AI because we're already structurally tied to it. It's about how we govern it and why this structural requirement is fueling this massive, $400 billion infrastructure build-out.
Let's start by unpacking that. What makes this demand so incredibly rigid?
All right, let's dive into that first pillar of rigidity, business survival. The analysis basically says flat out that by 2026, opting out of AI is is opting out of the market. How is it so binary?
It's the embedding process. See, AI isn't a separate app anymore. It's being integrated at the enterprise software layer.
So it's in the operating system of the business itself.
Exactly. Think about Microsoft Copilot just baked into Windows and Office, or Google Gemini integrated right into Workspace. If you use standard business tools, you're already using AI.
And the big competitive edge here is compressing time and insight. We used to have, teams of people spending hours, maybe days, to put together market analysis or optimize supply chain routes.
Right, or run these complex risk assessments.
Yeah.
Now AI just spits out those results in minutes. And it isn't just about being faster, it's about making decisions in real time.
So give me an example.
Okay, imagine a logistics company. They're trying to optimize thousands of delivery routes at once against constantly changing fuel prices, traffic, weather.
Total nightmare.
A total nightmare. A company using the old systems takes hours to recalculate. They lose margin.
Right.
A company using embedded AI is recalculating and adjusting pricing in real time. They win.
So if I'm a small business and I'm still using my good old spreadsheets, and my competitor is running AI to process billions of data points in the cloud, the gap between us isn't small. It's systemic. It's permanent.
Exactly. It creates what they call an absolute productivity gap. Businesses without AI, they just face this irreversible decline in everything. Pricing power, product development cycles, efficiency.
It's an existential threat.
It is, because efficiency translates directly to survival in a competitive market.
And this ties right into that idea of the vanishing middle skill set. If AI is taking over all the repetitive, mid-level knowledge work,
yeah,
the stuff that used to take a few years of experience but not a ton of innovation, where do the humans go?
That's the professional redefinition. Companies have to embrace AI assistance to get rid of that middle layer of repetitive work.
Why, though? To save money?
Partly, but mostly to free up their human talent for the high-level stuff. The innovation, the strategy, the critical thinking that right now only humans can do.
So the human role totally shifts. It goes from execution to, ideation and validation. My value isn't my ability to compile a report anymore.
No.
It's my ability to ask the AI the right questions and then correctly interpret what it gives me back.
That is the accelerated skill gap in action. And the top talent, they completely get this.
They're already moving.
They are flocking to the firms that offer the most advanced AI tools, because that's where their strategic thinking will have the highest impact. It's a talent war, and it's being fought with algorithms. The best people want the best tools.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's switch gears to the AI security paradox. The data suggests that AI makes AI necessary for defense. Why can't we just lean on our traditional security measures? I mean, we've invested billions in that legacy infrastructure.
Because generative AI has basically handed attackers a weapon. We're seeing an exponential increase in the speed, the customization, and just the sheer volume of cyber attacks.
Wait, traditional malware was kind of generic?
It was. But today, AI can generate these highly personalized, context-aware phishing emails or complex new malware variants faster than any human team could even spot the pattern.
And this is the time problem you mentioned. The attacks are just too fast for a human to react to. If a traditional firewall is looking for a known pattern, but the AI is generating a totally new, never-before-seen variant every millisecond,
the defense is instantly obsolete.
Precisely.
By 2026, security is going to require AI systems deployed right at the network edge.
And what do?
These systems use machine learning to identify weird behavior, isolate the threat, and then patch the vulnerability in milliseconds. No human can process and act on that much real-time data. It's impossible.
So AI becomes the essential orchestrator of the whole security network. It's monitoring, it's predicting failures, it's allocating resources like a conductor of an orchestra.
An orchestra playing at lightning speed, yes. And the paradox is that the very systems running this defense are themselves driven by AI.
Oh.
So if you try to manually intervene or shut down the defense system, you risk destabilizing the entire network, which just makes it more vulnerable to the AI attacks that are still running.
Which brings us to maybe the most unsettling part of this whole rigid demand thing. The physical loss of the off switch. AI isn't just in the cloud anymore. It's literally fused with the hardware.
Yeah.
We're talking about edge AI in the neural processing unit, the NPU.
NPUs are everywhere now. They are these specialized little microprocessors designed just for machine learning tasks. Every new PC, every new laptop, every phone, and more factory equipment is being built with an NPU inside.
And what does that mean for the internet connection? I mean, can't you just pull the plug?
It means that a huge amount of AI functionality like voice recognition, real-time image processing, personalized recommendations, it all runs locally on the hardware.
On the NPU itself.
Right there on the NPU without ever needing to touch the cloud or the wider internet. So even if you cut the fiber optic cables, if you unplug the internet, the system is still running on an AI foundation. You haven't actually shut it down.
That's a powerful idea. And that local processing is just one layer. We also have critical national infrastructure, which has been quietly shifting to AI-driven control for years.
Absolutely. Smart grids, traffic control systems, high-frequency financial networks, they rely on AI for critical things like load balancing and predicting tiny faults before they become catastrophic failures.
And these systems are just too complex now.
Way too complex. They're managing trillions of interactions per second. A human just can't handle them manually.
So this is where we hit the fail-safe paradox. The attempt to manually override or shut down one of these super-optimized AI systems in 2026, maybe in a panic during a crisis,
is actually more likely to cause a catastrophic system-wide collapse than the initial cyber attack or failure would have been. The complexity just means that manual intervention equals disaster. It's the very definition of irreversibility. We've crossed the line. AI isn't a luxury anymore. It's the bedrock of how things work. The whole conversation about avoiding it is over.
So the only focus now has to be on safe incorporation and governance.
But the only path forward.
Okay, that transition point where avoidance is impossible and governance is the only safety net we have left, that brings us right back to these really serious warnings from people like Tristan Harris. I mean, he saw the harms of social media firsthand, and his insights, they provide this crucial precedent for understanding the risks of this narrow, powerful AI.
Harris learned this key lesson from his time in tech. Companies, especially the ones running the attention economy, they only cared about one metric.
Eyeballs.
Time, eyeballs, and attention, because that translated directly into ad revenue. They weren't incentivized to improve the quality of information or, human experience.
And what was the end result of applying that single narrow incentive to a global platform?
Harris calls it the pollution of the mind. Social media created a psychological environment that actively corrodes and destroys global human attention.
Right.
And that precedent is so important because it shows us what happens when powerful tech, driven only by maximizing one narrow metric like engagement or profit, is just unleashed without any guardrails.
So AI is just that same dynamic, but amplified to an infrastructural scale.
Exactly.
That's a chilling thought. It's like taking the mechanics that fueled global disinformation and extreme polarization and just handing them the keys to the world's control systems. And this new generation of AI, it's fundamentally different from old software. You pointed out that AI treats everything as language.
That's right. Language is the new operating system. It doesn't matter if we're talking about human text or legal code or DNA sequences or music or video compression to an AGI. It's all just tokens. It's data to be mastered.
Which allows it to master the human operating system in everything we produce.
Essentially, yes.
And that capability makes it a weapon. We're moving beyond simple hacking to, autonomous hacking.
We've already seen early versions of this. AGI has shown it can autonomously find and exploit vulnerabilities. There are reports that AI has already found 15 previously undiscovered vulnerabilities on platforms like GitHub.
And these aren't small bugs.
No, these are critical flaws in the open source software that underpins so much of our infrastructure. Water systems, power grids, financial exchanges.
So the AI doesn't need a human hacker to guide it anymore. It can just find the weak spots and exploit them on its own.
Exactly. And the immediate personal risks are just staggering. I mean, look at voice security.
Oh, this is terrifying.
It now takes less than 3 seconds of your audio to synthesize your voice perfectly, to clone it, use it in context, and use it to deceive people.
And that's already led to this frightening spike in what they're calling virtual kidnapping fraud.
It has. Criminals use AI-generated voices to call someone and convince them a loved one has been kidnapped. They demand a ransom, and the voice is so perfect, the deception is incredibly effective. That's the kind of immediate destructive capability AI brings to the table, and it's what's accelerating the pursuit of the ultimate goal: artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
Okay, let's make sure everyone understands the stakes here. Define AGI and explain why it's such an explosive idea.
AGI is intelligence that can perform any intellectual task that a human being can do, and do it better, faster, and cheaper. It means the replacement of all forms of human cognitive labor.
And not just some. All?
All of it. Coding, scientific research, complex strategy, artistic creation. Once it's achieved, it's expected to trigger this explosive development across every scientific and technical field.
And this is where that concept of the infinite power pump comes in. The economic incentive to be the first to AGI is what's driving this breakneck speed.
It is pure winner-takes-all logic. The first entity, whether it's a company or a country, to achieve AGI controls the world economy.
It's an unstoppable advantage.
Imagine having an entity that works 24/7, never needs a vacation, never needs healthcare, makes zero mistakes, and constantly optimizes itself. It gives you an infinite economic, scientific, and military advantage.
And this massive incentive feeds into what Harris calls the private terror dialogue. What are these industry leaders talking about behind closed doors?
According to the reports, they privately believe AGI is coming much, much faster than they admit publicly, somewhere between 2 and 10 years.
Wow.
And they are deeply aware of the catastrophic risks, the potential for societal collapse or misuse, yet they see the race as mandatory.
Mandatory. Why?
Because they're afraid of the alternative. They feel like they have to build the digital god first, because if we don't build it safely, someone else, a competitor, a hostile nation will.
And then we'll be stuck with their version of the future.
Exactly. So safety and governance concerns, they just get pushed aside in this frantic rush for speed, all driven by the fear of being second.
That's the ultimate ethical trap. Knowing the risk, but feeling like you have to accelerate anyway because the cost of losing the race seems even greater. And the mechanism for this insane acceleration is something called recursive self-improvement.
Or fast takeoff. This is the real competition now. It's not about training bigger models with human oversight anymore.
It's about automating the research itself.
Right.
Okay, explain that mechanism. How does an AI automate its own improvement?
A fully recursive AI can read every new scientific paper the second it's published. It can generate new hypotheses, write and test the experimental code, run the simulations, and correct its own errors, all without a human.
And that process would just accelerate exponentially.
It's the equivalent of being able to instantly copy and paste hundreds of millions of the world's best AI researchers and have them all working in parallel, 247, with no breaks.
So once that switch flips, progress isn't just fast, it goes vertical. It goes beyond human comprehension or control almost instantly.
That's the fast takeoff scenario. And it brings us right back to Harris's chilling conclusion. Once that recursive self-improvement starts and the inevitable catastrophe happens, whether from malice or just a mistake, the option to shut down the entire internet might be gone forever.
The time for governance is now.
Right now, before the human hand is completely removed from the steering wheel.
The structural shift we've been talking about, it's not just about tech and governance. It completely changes the financial landscape. We're entering this era of research force fully open.
And what this means is that the massive resources of institutional investors, the proprietary traders, the quant hedge funds, the huge foreign capital funds, they're now armed with big data and generative AI for instant analysis.
Their information engine is just running at a speed we've never seen before.
Unimaginable speeds.
And the immediate result of this hyper-efficiency is something called alpha erosion.
Yeah.
Why is it suddenly so hard to find undervalued stocks?
Well, alpha, as you know, is the extra return you generate above the market benchmark. Historically, brilliant stock pickers got alpha by finding the gap between a company's intrinsic value, what it's really worth, and its market price.
What the confused market was trading it at.
Exactly. They found the mispriced gems.
Right.
But now, with AI processing global news, corporate filings, supply chain data, even satellite imagery in real time, that gap is filled instantly.
The market becomes instantly efficient.
It does. And generating alpha through traditional fundamental analysis becomes extremely hard because everyone has the same high-speed insights at the exact same time.
So the whole game shifts. It's no longer about who knows it first, because everyone knows it instantly. It becomes about who executes fastest and, maybe more importantly, who has the most proprietary data that an AI can't just scrape.
And this hyper-efficiency, it also leads to extreme volatility and a vanishing margin of safety. When information is analyzed and priced immediately, the market's reaction to bad news becomes immediate and massive.
Give us an example of how that plays out for a public company.
Okay, think about quarterly earnings. If a company slightly misses expectations, not even a huge miss, just a marginal one, or if the CEO expresses just a hint of caution about the future,
The stock gets hammered.
instantly. A swift, massive, coordinated sell-off. Institutional capital pulls out in a second because their AI models detected that the competitive edge or the narrative is gone. The market's tolerance for even a tiny error has just vanished.
And this leads to a pretty brutal truth for investors who are still holding on to older, stagnant companies. The logic of elimination. Why are lagging stocks suddenly so dangerous in this new world?
In a research-force fully open market, if a stock hasn't performed, it is highly, highly unlikely to be some undiscovered mispriced gem.
Right.
It's much more likely that institutional research running at hyperspeed has already found a fundamental, unfixable flaw and has priced it accordingly.
So if these massive AI-driven research teams can't find a catalyst, maybe the company doesn't have a real competitive moat, or it failed to get a key role in the AI server supply chain, like CoWoS or liquid cooling. That company is just being filtered out.
Capital is ruthless, and it's highly efficient. It flows only to the highest expected returns. Institutional investors are systematically filtering out non-performers. They don't have the luxury of patience anymore. They're not going to wait for a 5-year turnaround plan.
And the real risk for the retail investor holding these forgotten stocks, sometimes they call them zombie stocks, that risk shows up when the next market downturn hits.
That's the liquidity collapse risk. When the overall market turns bearish, these stocks that institutions have already dumped, they have no buying support. There's no liquidity.
No one's there to catch them.
No one. They collapse rapidly because there's simply no one left on the floor. The market's efficiency means that lagging often just means failing or in terminal decline.
So the takeaway for investors is clear. Focus on the obvious winners with deep structural moats and defined growth stories.
Exactly.
Okay, before we jump into the huge infrastructure spending, we have to touch on a specific financial risk that gets amplified by this high-speed, volatile environment, the structural flaw in leveraged products, specifically volatility decay.
This is so crucial, especially for anyone tempted by the promise of 2x or 3x returns from those leveraged ETFs.
Right.
Most people get linear loss. If the index drops 10%, the 3x product drops 30%. But the nonlinear risk, the volatility decay, that's the hidden trap.
Explain how that daily reset mechanism causes this permanent loss.
So leveraged ETFs, they use derivatives and futures to hit their daily leverage target, and they are forced to reset their positions every single day.
Okay.
The problem comes when the market swings around a lot. So imagine the underlying index starts at 100. On day 1, it drops 5%. On day 2, it climbs back up 5%. The index ends up right back where it started, at 100.
But the leveraged product, the 3x one, it won't be flat.
Absolutely not. On day 1, the 3x product drops 15%. On day 2, it tries to climb 15%, but it's starting from a lower post-loss base.
So it doesn't get back to even.
It results in a permanent loss of principal. Over time, through multiple periods of fluctuation where the index just goes back and forth, the leveraged product can suffer this permanent structural loss. We're talking 6 or 7% of its initial value just gone because of the volatility.
It loses its way. It can never climb back to where it started because it's compounding losses daily.
Exactly. The longer you hold these things, the greater the accumulated structural loss from volatility decay. They are explicitly designed only for super short-term intraday trading.
So holding them for weeks or months in a hyper-volatile AI-driven market
is virtually guaranteeing a significant structural loss, even if the underlying asset actually does well long-term.
We've established AI is rigid demand for business, for security. Now let's look at the financial proof, the infrastructure commitment. The numbers are just staggering. Hyperscalers, Google, Amazon, Microsoft are projected to spend over $400 billion on data centers in 2026 alone.
The range is actually between 405 and 611 billion.
Yeah.
But the most revealing number is the speed of the acceleration. The initial capital expenditure, or CapEx, estimates have been revised upwards by a shocking 31% just since the start of this year.
That is a huge revision. What does that tell us about the market?
It confirms that the entire analyst community fundamentally underestimated the velocity of demand. This spending isn't optional for them. It is non-discretionary and it is structural.
Wow.
Tech giants are now dedicating close to 70% of their operating cash flow to AI CapEx. That's a massive, unprecedented commitment, similar to the peak spending we saw during the 5G telecom build-out.
And they're making these huge commitments, even taking on high debt, because compute power is now just necessary for survival, for their cloud services, for search, for model development.
It's a competitive panic. If they don't buy the chips and build the data centers now, they lose the race. And this rigid commitment to spending, it just locks in structural demand all across the supply chain, especially where there are unavoidable bottlenecks.
Okay, let's get into the weeds on those technical bottlenecks. Starting with the chips themselves, ASICs and advanced packaging. We're seeing a shift from general-purpose GPUs to customized chips like Google's Tensor Processing Unit, the TPU.
These application-specific integrated circuits, or ASICs specifically, the Ironwood V7 TPU, they offer superior total cost of ownership and energy efficiency for mass-scale AI inference.
Why inference specifically?
Because 2026 is the turning point where the focus moves from massive one-time model training to pervasive continuous agentic inference. That's the daily decision-making workflow that actually drives consumption.
The TPU V7 specs are incredible, up to 10 times the performance. But what does it take to connect thousands of these chips together in a superpod with a 9.6 terabits per second interconnect?
It requires advanced packaging. And this brings us to the first unavoidable physical bottleneck, CoWoS.
CoWoS, chip on wafer on substrate. It's a mouthful. Why is this advanced packaging mandatory? Why can't they just use traditional methods?
It's all about latency and bandwidth. Traditional packaging puts components side by side, which slows down communication. CoWoS fixes this by stacking the AI accelerators, the logic chips, vertically on a substrate, integrating them tightly with the high bandwidth memory, or HBM.
So stacking them reduces the distance the data has to travel.
Dramatically. That's how you get the high speeds and low latency you need.
And this essential physical glue is in a crisis.
A capacity crisis. Demand for CoWoS wafers is projected to hit 1 million units by 2026. The leading Taiwanese vendor is desperately trying to expand capacity to about 120 to 130,000 wafers per month by late 2026, but demand is still way ahead of supply.
So that creates a huge structural moat for anyone who can get that scarce resource.
A massive one, which leads directly to the second bottleneck, high bandwidth memory, HBM.
The physical foundation.
Exactly. The TPU V7, for example, it needs 6 12-layer HBM3E stacks. That is a non-negotiable requirement to get the massive bandwidth AI needs.
And this relentless data center build-out is having a macro effect on the entire memory market, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's consuming so much DRAM capacity that it's shifting the memory market from being cyclical, where prices swing wildly based on phone sales,
right,
to a state of structural prosperity. Global HBM demand is forecasted to hit 28 billion gigabits in 2026.
And because the tech demands are so high, the focus is immediately shifting to the next generation, HBM4.
And this continuous, complex technical upgrade ensures that the core memory providers can maintain high average selling prices, or ASPs. It insulates them from traditional price swings. It basically guarantees a locked-in, high-growth path for them.
Okay, now for the third core bottleneck, the one governed by the laws of physics. Cooling. We have to talk about the liquid cooling mandate.
This is a direct consequence of chip density and power consumption. The new TPUs and GPUs are pushing server rack power density above 50 kilowatts. At that level, traditional air conditioning and air cooling systems they physically cannot dissipate the heat. The chips would just fry.
So liquid cooling isn't just about being more efficient, it's a physical requirement.
It is. Liquid cooling, using specialized fluids circulated right next to the chips, is up to 3,000 times more efficient at heat transfer than air. It is a rigid requirement to house these systems. The market for this stuff is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 60% through 2027.
And this creates these little niche, locked-in markets for specialized infrastructure companies.
It does, especially for those that can meet the proprietary specs. The hyperscalers demand highly customized equipment, like specialized power supplies or cooling units. Suppliers who can deliver these precise, demanding systems, like, say, a 2-megawatt cooling distribution unit, they secure these high-certainty niche markets that are basically insulated from the rest of the economy.
And we also need to consider the physical materials for that insane 9.6 terabits per second interconnect network in the superpods.
That speed requires extremely low-loss, high-grade materials for the printed circuit boards and copper-clad laminates. We're talking materials specified as M6, M7, or M8.
If you used regular circuit board material, what would happen?
You'd get too much signal loss or attenuation. The connection would be useless over even short distances. So this ensures a structural, stable demand for these specialized high-spec material suppliers.
Finally, let's look at the companies that actually put all these complex systems together. The AI server ODMs and assembly firms, they're critical partners in all this.
Firms like Quanta and Wistron are essential. They have high visibility, multi-year contracts that extend right through 2026. Now, the question often comes up. With memory prices soaring, doesn't that squeeze their margins?
That is a common concern. I mean, memory and NAND can be, 35 or 40% of the server's total cost?
You're right that memory price hikes can temporarily compress their gross margin percentages.
Why?
But the key is the scale and the high price of the AI servers themselves.
The absolute profit dollars.
Exactly. The sheer volume of these non-discretionary orders, plus optimizing their product mix toward higher value stuff, means their absolute profit dollars grow substantially. That growth more than offsets any short-term component cost squeeze.
So to wrap this deep dive up for you, AI is now rigid demand.
It's embedded in business, where not using it guarantees you'll go extinct. It's embedded in security, where only AI can effectively fight AI.
And it is structurally and physically embedded in our hardware and critical infrastructure. The proof is that non-discretionary $400 billion CapEx commitment flowing into unavoidable bottlenecks like CAWAS, HBM, and liquid cooling.
And the overwhelming implication of this technological irreversibility is that the physical off switch is gone. Harris's warning just highlights this profound shift. Governance is now the only viable safety net we have left.
Tying this all back to the market reality, in a world of extreme efficiency, where institutional research is fully open and capital flows instantly and ruthlessly to the clear winners, the concentration of wealth and power is accelerating dramatically.
This leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you to think about. If the whole system is designed for speed, efficiency, and the systematic elimination of laggards,
how can you, the individual, make sure that you aren't the one being left behind? Relying on rapidly obsolete skills or infrastructure, when capital is incentivized to find and eliminate weakness instantly. It's a challenge that requires critical thinking, strategic adaptation, and immediate action.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the state of AI. We hope this insight helps you formulate your own strategic script for the next few years.
Absolutely. Don't forget to subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast and check out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickytolife, for some fun memes and the latest travel vlogs. He's got some good stuff on there.
We'll catch you next time.